That's ISO?
Rack it up, I got a bit of the bank to make me a safe house. Shake it up, she got her hands on her knees and she bringing the cake out. Smoke it up, I got some gas, some packs, I'm up in the greenhouse. Ball it up, I'm with the gang, we taking shots off the rebound. Fucking my post the same now, I've been humble too long.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Wealth on the Rocks. We got today, I'm so excited for this, that you made time to do this. He is a serial entrepreneur, an absolute incredible person here, local in Nashville, and founder of IceBrekr, which he'll tell us all about here in a second. But David Castro, welcome. Tell us all about you, man.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Great to get to know you recently, and excited to be in here chatting about this on camera.
Absolutely.
So, so girl dad, serial entrepreneur. We were just talking a second ago about the Latino background.
Yeah.
My dad was born in Ponce, Puerto Rico.
Nice.
And my mom in North Carolina, the hills of North Carolina. That's the family. Nice. Came from there. They say I didn't know what holler was. You know, you born in the holler.
Yeah.
It's like hollow, and it means like the little hole in between two like big mountains. Yeah. That's literally where they were. And as a little kid, when we visited one time, one of my grandfather's brothers, I guess, would take his truck 4x4 and drive us up and down these hills. And I swear, I thought we were gonna like tumble down the hill. But yeah, so that's the background. But yeah, you mentioned serial entrepreneur. Got into entrepreneurship. I guess almost 10 years ago, and always done technology. Yeah. And ended up, starting my own. I've always wanted to do my own thing. Sure. And being a technical salesperson, it made a lot of sense to kind of go into a business-to-business enterprise software product. Yeah. Nice. I had sold that for a while. Actually, in college, I had wanted to be a developer in order to get royalties and those type of things. So it kind of went full circle. Nice. When I came to Nashville, didn't really like what I was doing, and it caused me to have to, kind of hit a fork in the road. Sure. And create something. And so ever since then, that was 2015, that's been my thing, is to create something new in tech. Yeah. That first thing sold and did pretty well. My co-founder is, retired, did really well. Won't go into details about how I kind of like moved out, but I still had equity in it. Sure. And that helped me fund some of the next things I'm doing. Yeah. And the current thing I'm doing is super cool as well, which we could talk about. But. Absolutely, dude. It's such a fun. It's like sitting down with the next Mark Zuckerberg. It's so cool. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we'll talk about the bourbon too. Today we're drinking some interesting stuff. I picked this up because I'm a big fan of high proof whiskey, bourbon, you name it. And this is a pretty interesting find. I never heard of this before. It's MGP from Indiana. It's called Obtanium light whiskey. And can you guess? Obtanium. I love that. Yeah, it's like a secret, weapon. But what do you think the proof on this whiskey is? How much percentage of alcohol? Oh, take a guess. I don't know. Because you asked 80? 80% alcohol? That'd be like alcohol. That would be pretty intense. No, but almost. 64.5%. 64.5%. What are they usually? What's the average? So your traditional bourbon, I think, is like 40%, like 100 proof. I think. Don't quote me on this, but I think 100 proof is like either 40 or 50%. Okay, see, I don't know the proof versus. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. So, yeah, I'm still kind of figuring out, but 64.5%, meaning it's pretty spicy. Nice. Let's do it. That's pretty good. Yeah, let's do it. So, dude, these glasses are. Thank you. Smoking, man. I love that. Little Glencairn glasses. You actually can get these done for your business too. Like, I'll tell you about this too. So, like, back a few years ago, we
started a hot sauce company.
Okay.
So
I see that hot sauce.
I got some glasses done for the hot sauce thing. That was a fun adventure too. Another serial entrepreneur.
I want to hear about that. I'm a hot sauce guy.
Cheers.
Man.
Yeah. So we had it was a fun journey, man. We started with 5 flavors originally. We did like this little market and loved it. We got some feedback from people like, hey, this is great. Like, you should do some more sauces or whatever. And I was like, all right, well, we can try. And then so you get to all the quote unquote boring side of the business, like figuring out all the permits and all that kind of stuff to start making like hot sauce and sell it and all that without killing anybody. So, we did that for a little bit, and then we ended up getting connected with a distributor and sort of grew from there, got into a bunch of different places, and then ended up selling the company. So, yeah,
solid.
That's kind of where.
Cheers, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers, yeah.
Awesome. Let's try this thing. Let's see. Man, it smells pretty sweet. Spicy?
I think No,
I went to the wrong pipe.
What do I do? I like.
We're not ready for the 65%.
I burped. I don't know what I did at the time. When I swallowed, I swallowed air
at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brutal. Don't try this at home, kids.
I sniffed it in, then I was holding my breath, and then I swallowed. It was just too much air going down at the same time as the whiskey.
Your body was like, no, don't do this.
It's only so much air you can breathe in or, take in while you're drinking.
This is phenomenal, though. For anybody that's a fan of some of the higher proof stuff, this is super good. Kind of has some sweet notes. MGP is actually, I'm still learning about all this. I'm not the kind of guy, so I feel like there's always different kind of guys when it comes to bourbon, but it's the super crazy collectors that wait for hours for a release, and I'm much more relaxed. I like to enjoy good bourbon. I know a little bit about the industry enough to know to enjoy some different things, but I'm not gonna go crazy and what I mean. Spend thousands of dollars and things. And
you think you'll end up doing a distillery yourself at some point?
Distillery, me? Oh, that'd be fun, actually. I don't know about distillery, but I think I would like to have barrels that I pick. So there's a thing in the community, I don't know how much you know, but people go out and you can go through usually liquor stores are able, because they have the licenses and all that, but you can go out and pick a barrel. So sometimes there's Facebook groups and things that do this, and they get together. They got 5 or 6 guys. They go to the distillery and they try 6 or 7 different barrels from, let's say, Buffalo Trace, right? Big name brand.
Yeah.
So they go out there, they try a bunch of different things, and then whatever they like the best, they all agreement. They're all right, number 3 is the best we like. Bottle up, and they usually make cool stickers and dip the bottles in wax and all these different things. So they make it kind of their own. So I feel for business purposes, I think it'd be really fun to take, our team or take different business individuals, just get together, do some picks. I've been a part of a couple, and super fun experience. Yeah.
There's a nonprofit, you probably know about it. There's a nonprofit that he has the most open bottles of whiskey in the country for sure, maybe in the world.
I know there's some bourbon charities or something. Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it, but I'll mention it. And people pay tons of money just to go and taste the ones that anyway, he's got the largest. Again, it's the largest collection, open bottle collection in the world.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. So speaking of networking and everything else, dude, you've been killing it in the space, got from tech and connecting people. IceBrekr, tell us all about it. What is all that about?
Yeah. So if I could just start with what I believe.
Sure.
Which is that the life that we're dreaming of is built through the connections that we make.
Love it. I love it.
And so
say that one more time.
The life that each of us is dreaming of is going to be built through the connections that we make.
Wow.
That is the the conviction driving icebreaker.
Wow.
And so our goal, the goal of IceBrekr is to help people make the connections that matter.
I love that.
Not every connection is created equal. Humans are awesome. I am not a big, cosplay guy.
Sure.
So I wouldn't go to a cosplay event. That's not, I'm not going to find my ideal connections there.
Sure.
Right? I'll go down to the Nashville Tech Council or the Entrepreneur Center.
Sure.
And those will be people that are like a lot more adjacent to me, a lot more like-minded. And so what I find is that, people are able to get, your podcasts, your books, your YouTube, all the content that they want.
Mm-hmm.
And but if they want to connect with their tribe, how do they connect with their tribe?
Yeah.
They connect with them around like events. Those become like the fulcrums, right?
Sure.
The speaker.
Yeah.
The theme of the event. Right? Yeah. So it's not necessarily the content that brings people out.
Yeah.
It's the tribe that's going to be there.
Right.
Because their main reason for going there physically
to meet
isn't necessarily, to listen to the content. It's to meet ideal connections that they know will be accessible.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so they might meet the speaker, but they're not going to go just to meet the speaker.
Right.
Right. And so the goal of IceBrekr is you basically, all the details aside, you have IceBrekr. It's a mobile app.
Yep.
Apple and Android. You walk into the event, and the most common use case, shall we say, the easiest one, you walk into the event, and you have in your mind, who your ideal connection is.
Right.
And that could change month to month. Like
Sure.
You might be hiring somebody, you might be looking for a gig, you might be looking for an SEO guy.
Right.
You might be looking for somebody to create a super cool logo.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. But at any rate, or a podcast host or something.
Sure.
But you have in your mind like who your ideal people are, and therefore you can say in a couple words like what your keyword would be.
Right.
You put those in IceBrekr. You walk into this event, and if somebody is within eyeball distance of you, it buzzes. It notifies you.
Nice.
And then you pull out IceBrekr.
Yeah.
That's on your app. You open the screen, you look, and it shows David Lechosa's face, and you click on the profile. Podcast host, etc. Yeah. And then I can say, okay, David is right. It's my
right
ideal
around.
connection,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to prioritize making a connection with David.
Yeah.
Everybody else that's there is important too.
Sure.
But your ideal connection, obviously, is one that you want to prioritize connecting with.
Right.
So no more FOMO.
Yeah.
You connect with that person, and then get something on the books, whatever, and then you can enjoy time with everybody else. And then, when you're sitting in the breakout session or whatever, because everybody's adjacent, you can look on your discovery screen and connect with their LinkedIn and their Instagram or whatever, just to build your network with adjacent people.
Yeah.
But it raises the ROI of
the connection,
in the
that's amazing. That's incredible because you and I probably have been to numerous networking events, and I feel like probably a big use case, right, is networking, going to networking
100%.
events and different things like that. And sometimes you end up talking to a bunch of people that are not relevant to what you're looking for and what you're trying to accomplish. And I think IceBrekr kind of helps, like, hey, there's 200 people at this event. Who am I wanting to talk? Like, I only have a certain amount of time that I need to spend and prioritize, like you said, right? I want to make these certain connections. And I love that you have like this profile that you can see like this person is doing this and that, and they have all the links and all that. So you can see like, all right, I'm looking for somebody in marketing. So I know that this guy is right around here. He does marketing. Let me go talk to him.
He's within eyeball distance. It uses the radio signals from your phone.
That's pretty cool.
And so it's organic.
Yeah.
All you need is the app, and you turn it on. If everybody else has the app on, boom, that's all you need. There's ways that we improve upon that for event hosts, and I call that PDA. Yeah. It's pre-event, during event, after event.
Oh, I was about to say, no kissing up in here.
No. Every event needs PDA. IceBrekr, pre-event, during event, and after event. We just talked about the during event. Pre-event is like who's coming,
right?
And you can kind of plan and connect.
Yeah.
After the event is nobody ever talks to everybody.
Right.
You never connect with everybody, even if you have IceBrekr on, right? It's still
Yeah.
And then there's the adjacent people that you can connect with afterwards. So it's all about that.
No more business cards?
You know what? It has a digital business card. Actually, it's free digital, business card with it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't know about that. So that's cool. Like, yeah, I feel like every time I've gone to an event prior to using this, I mean, it's been like, all right, let me see, who can I talk to? I'll exchange information, or I get like a business card that sometimes may or may not, who knows where it ends up, a business card. And I've seen those new ones too, that you have like what do you call it? It's like a contact card thing that you like scan it or like, so that's pretty cool too. But then sometimes those connections kind of get lost, but I like that you have the before, like who's coming to this, right? Let me get to know some connections and then following up after, because a big thing of any business, I feel like, is really just building connections, building a network of individuals and strategic referral partners that you can count on and do business with. And you never know. I mean, you can open up some crazy doors. I mean, how did you come up with all this? Like, what's the ultimate goal? What do you see this growing into?
Yeah, man, this is something that is impactful.
Yeah.
Right? Because I believe it's impactful to every human.
Yeah.
Every human, builds their life through the connections they make. It doesn't matter where you live, what country, what your industry, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So I really love the concept, and I love the mission.
Yeah.
And I think it has, significant legs.
Yeah.
And has a significant total addressable market and all those things.
Sure.
So
everybody,
the money's going to come. I want to do the impact thing.
Sure.
I really, really do. And so I think that's going to happen. Now, I don't, it's hard for me to look after that, because if it gets acquired or something like that,
sure,
I maybe I would stay on in some capacity. I don't know, but I love the mission of it. But there's probably things driving me to do the tech product that are, currently, things that are slightly stretching me outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Speaking, writing, whatever it might be, right?
That's fun,
like connecting with people.
Yeah.
So I do love impacting people. This is currently the way that I can be a super connector.
Yeah.
And connectors are both people who network like you and I.
Sure.
And then also the people who create events. They're super connectors, right?
Yeah,
The speakers
absolutely.
are super connectors, right? Because they're that fulcrum, right? That centerpiece that drives people to adjacency.
Absolutely.
So we'll see what the future holds, but I love the mission of it.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like you talk about speaking and everything else. Like that's one of my goals too. Like kind of opening up some of those doors into doing more for the community and doing some more speaking and education. I mean, a lot of what we do on the finance side is providing education to Middle America, right? And we were talking about the Latin American community, right? Like for me, coming from Spain, it's something super important to me, and I feel like it is one of those things that especially that community is not, or in general, I feel like in the U.S. there's not a lot of education around some of those things, and I feel like connecting people in there, providing education, maybe doing some speaking stuff. So that's definitely one of my goals too. So
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. Honestly, I don't see myself as like, super well versed or very. I mean, I feel like I've got some basics and
sure,
and those type of things. But I think I think it is definitely super needed.
Yeah.
And it's I would love to see that.
Yeah,
I would love to see it. Like, what do we got for 2024? Anything teed up?
As far as events or things, I'd love to do at least 2 events. That's my goal for 2024. Do like 2 speaking engagements of some sort to like, I'm not even about anything about the money. Like just trying to help some people out. Like I want to do something in the Spanish community and something for the financial side of things. So that's kind of
spot on.
Yeah.
So let me help with that.
Yeah,
I'll help with that
Absolutely.
however I can. I have some ideas already.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
There's so much stuff.
Dude, that's so it's so doable and accessible. For sure.
It's fun because we tried to do an event a few months ago, and breaks and holidays and all these different things. Like we couldn't find people to come. You know, like it's a lot of value, but there's like, oh, I'm out of town and this and that. And I was sending texts out or whatever, right? Like. So we got to figure out like, all right, I need like some sort of event planner people to like figure out, all right, there's so much to planning an event. I mean,
okay. So there's an event in January.
Yeah.
Middle of January that could be a good spot.
Yeah.
For you.
Sweet.
So
talk about it. Yeah.
That
sounds fun. Yeah. I'm all down for.
Yeah, local here in Nashville in the Brentwood area.
Dude, I'm always
it's
down
financially, kind of topical.
Sure.
And networking.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, we'll talk some more about that. And speaking of connection too, like I'm curious your thoughts on this because like we live in such a connected but unconnected world at the same time. You know? And what I mean by that is like we live in a world to where like it's so accessible at our fingertips to connect with somebody, but sometimes through that I feel like some of that connection personally is lost, if that makes any sense. Through like in-person physical connection.
Yeah, you mean that it's superficial, very digital.
Sometimes. Yeah.
And maybe not the whole person.
Yeah, what do you think about that? So like how, for people that are listening, right? Like how does one create meaningful connections and relationships, in business, in life? Like what's your process on that?
That's good. I just don't, there's like, I get asked that question.
Yeah.
And I have a go-to answer and I can't improve upon it yet.
Yeah.
And it's really the most basic. It's, curiosity.
Sure.
Like if you are someone who is curious, you're going to be able to sustain interest and energy in conversations with people that get you to the next level.
Right.
If you're not curious, then it's going to be superficial.
Right.
It's going to be, oh, what do you do?
Right.
It'll be the name
There's always
tag,
that
what
questions.
you do.
Yeah. What do you do? Do you have any family? Where are you from? What's the weather like? Like you want to get to like the deeper questions, like get to know a person, right?
Right. Like having questions memorized, that's not curiosity.
Right.
And I think you have to like, dig deeper.
Yeah.
And appreciate humanity.
Yeah.
Appreciate the story that's standing in front of you.
Yeah.
Right. How did they get here?
Yeah.
What do they care about? What are they trying to do?
I love that.
Right. Like, you miss the beauty of life if you're going through based upon the labels.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
We have book reviews because, we see the labels, we walk through the library and we see a bunch of books, but I don't know anything about them.
Sure.
Right. And so thankfully somebody has, kind of delved a little bit into it and said, hey, this is cool. And so I think we do that with people too. I think we look at the covers and we just ignore, and there's no sense of like, hey, tell me more about your why, why you're here, what do you, what drives you, what makes you tick.
Okay, so what are some, this is something that I do too. I'm curious to hear some of your like go-to questions, right?
Yeah.
Of like if you're a networking event, I mean, there's like, you probably heard this before, there's like an acronym that you can use for like basic, if you're very shy and don't know what to ask, it's called FORM. Have you ever heard of that?
I'm not actually.
So it's family, occupation, recreation, and miscellaneous. So FORM, can help you sort of establish a connection and a relationship at a very surface, basic level, right? Like, where you're from, where's your family, you have, occupation, what do you do, right? Recreation, hey, what do you do for fun? And then miscellaneous is like whatever, right? I always like to ask interesting questions too. I don't always do it, but depending on who the person is, like you always can get some fun answers of like, if you were a superhero, what power would you have? Like, or, like those kind of like different questions, or cool. Like, I don't know, like, what's the biggest, this is a fun question for you right now. What's the biggest animal that you think you could beat in a fight?
That's funny.
Don't say a gorilla.
Yeah, no, there's no way. Chimpanzees are like pound for pound. Those things are just, monkeys are the strongest.
Insane.
It's insanely strong. That's a great question. Actually, I get nervous. You play these like video games, these first-person games, and the dog.
Yeah.
In the video game, it's like the dog comes and jumps on you, and you just do this with your hands. Like it is not that easy.
No, for sure.
I actually wonder if I could hold my own against the dog.
Against the dog, yes. Yeah, dude.
So I mean, a cat. I think I got
probably a cat. You for sure.
But a dog, depending on the size, I'm a little bit nervous about it. I got to be honest with you.
Sure. Dude, I think an ostrich, if you get an ostrich, you can grab it by the neck, you can tie up an ostrich.
Do they kick?
Ooh, I don't know. They probably do kick. They're fast though, so who knows? You probably don't catch her.
I think if they kick, I think you and I are like toast.
A kangaroo probably kick you.
A kangaroo definitely. Well, they sit on their tail basically, just and then their feet will just like basically
kick the wind out of
you in half.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, those are like fun conversations. Like that's a conversation you ask that to somebody, you're gonna be memorable.
I like that. Yeah,
like
that's good.
You add something that's all it's about. Like making meaningful connections, and like you're probably not gonna ask that the first go around that you meet somebody because I don't know, who knows.
It's honestly it's the third question.
Yeah,
it's like the second question. The first question isn't that hard.
Sure.
It's memorized almost, right? Right. The second question, it takes a little bit more curiosity.
Sure.
It takes a little bit more like thinking and listening.
Right.
The second question takes some listening.
Yeah.
The third question, I think that takes like a sense of like guts.
Yeah.
Irreverence.
Sure.
Like a deeper curiosity.
Yeah.
Like personality.
Yeah.
That third question, that's the gold.
Yeah, do it. Find, and honestly, this is something too that I do whenever I go to in-person events.
Yeah.
I always have things that I memorize over the years of things that I can go to when it comes to like building connections or phrases I say or questions I ask. And then especially like with the IceBrekr thing, like the type of people that are going to be at that event. Mm-hmm. Let's say that it's real estate and mortgage related, right? Like, so you probably could, before the event, do some research. What's the latest news on real estate? What's the latest happenings around the world and mortgage, whatever, right, is your event about? And guess what? You're going to be so much more meaningful and much more educated, because even if you don't know about whatever the topic that it is, but you can ask questions and be curious, right? And be like, hey, let me do some research around what's the latest things in marketing? What's the whatever, right? And you do some research on that. And then guess what? Around those conversations, when it happens, you're like, oh, I've heard about this. Tell me more. And then it's always about, I'm a big believer of being a good listener, asking the right questions, being a listener, and letting the people talk. I feel like if anybody has read How to Meet Friends and Influence, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, great book. I'm a big reader as well. In that book, you talk about like letting the people speak, right? Whenever you have a conversation with somebody, you ever felt like they're like yapping and yapping and yapping, and you're like, all right, when is this guy gonna let me like speak a little, So I feel like that whenever you build connections, that's a big thing, right? Like letting the other people tell you their story and make that.
Yeah, totally. And as we're talking about it, I've been thinking about form, and the questions that you might ask ahead of time through research. and then that staggered depth where it's the first question, and then the follow-up question, and then the next level question. And that's actually kind of similar in sales.
Yeah.
In sales, let's talk about how does this affect your business?
Yeah.
Okay, great. How does it affect you professionally with the business? How does, you're involved with that? Great.
Yeah.
How does it affect you personally?
Yeah.
As a result of your professional business, right?
I love that.
That personal one, now you're getting down to like vulnerability and the person.
Yeah.
Right. And takes curiosity, takes some irreverence, takes some guts.
What are some questions that
empathy.
I love that. Yeah. What are some questions that you ask? Like, any tips for the people listening? Like, what are some good, like, couple questions that are go-to, like, if you're in a pickle, like, how do you break through that curiosity? How do you kind of unpeel the layers a little bit?
So I think, kind of going back to like the first and second question are, they're the easy, it's like the name tag. Right?
Surface level, yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Hey, you see David,
right.
You see the name tag, and then you move from there. So some of those first and second questions, there's a little bit of a movement there. And then the next question afterwards requires that sense of, you got to put some things together.
Right.
Like, how does this affect them?
Right.
Right. Or how does this affect the world?
Yeah.
Like, so you taking what they say and then thinking about, okay, that's interesting. How does that affect them?
Right.
Why would they care about that? Why should somebody else care about that?
Yeah.
Just that second level question, if you could think of that as a, okay, great. He said that. It matters. Why does it matter, and to whom?
Yeah.
Right. And it could be his family. It could be his company. It could be the people that are in this room. It could be himself. Like, those are some of those third level questions that are key. One of the things that I'll do in networking events, and it gives them a little bit. They can decide whether to go to the occupation or another way. As I'll be like, after I say like, "Hey, I'm David," I'll be like, "So, what good things are you doing?"
I love that. Yeah.
You can decide if you want to talk about business.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, hey, I'm sure you're doing good stuff in business.
Yeah. Or
you can talk about, nonprofit or
sure.
who knows what.
Yeah.
But it gives me a sense of like what's, kind of mainline right now for you. And then also, it's just real positive. Like,
I love that. Yeah. I think, and I've heard, I'm skipping the name. There's a very good speaker, communicator. His last name is Ving something. He's a magician and he does a lot of like speaking stuff. Some people probably know who I'm talking about, but he's an incredible dude. Talks about communication and lots of really good tips on that. And one of the things he said too is like asking questions, like branching questions to where like what you just said, right? Like you're giving them sort of different branches to hold on to where like it's very open of like not a yes no answer, right? Because that doesn't really, and you'll probably get some people too that are kind of like, all right, whatever, and they're like, yes, okay, let's let's dig a little deeper. Like you kind of throw in them some lines to like, all right, it's your time to like, you can pick out of all these things that I said, you can like sort of expand on that, and that can kind of help them, sort of continue the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I depending on the context, right? It's all context. It's all like, what the point, what the purpose of the gathering is, and maybe how many people are in the gathering. If it's a family gathering, then you are gonna like keep trying with that, uncle or whoever it might be.
Uncle, tell me about your conspiracy theories. I want to know why the Earth is flat. Dude, there's so much of that, but it's like, all right, maybe we don't ask Uncle Rob about all this,
Yeah, I mean, if depending on the context, it's like if you're asking too much, it's like, bro, we need to move on. It's
you're very passionate about this subject. Maybe let's not. Anyway, but that's fun, man. I feel like at the end of the day, it's all about, you know, being able to build meaningful connections, right? And it's a big thing. I mean, people appreciate one of the things too that I just remember, whenever you go into an event where you know there's going to be people you haven't talked to in a while potentially, which the IceBrekr app can help, right? It's like, oh, so-and-so is going to be there. You can also have some pre-notes or things to say of like, you remember that person had 2 kids, or you remember certain things about people that makes you so much more memorable of like, hey, how's your kid Billy doing? Like, shoot, you remember my kid Billy? Like, we had one conversation about it.
You mentioned Dale Carnegie's book. Yeah. And I read that, man, I was probably middle school.
Sure.
Was homeschooled, and we lived on like 5 1/4 acres, and you know, so I basically was bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
And we didn't have like the Nintendos and stuff, and I read almost everything in my parents' library because I was just it was good, right? Boredom leads to creation.
Yeah.
Anyway, and one of the things that he always talked about was remembering people's names.
Yeah, that's a huge thing.
And so I'd love to like just mention something that works really well for me. Yeah. Whether it's just Ahmad and I have a decent, you know, track record of remembering people's names. I'm not perfect, but I'm decent at it.
Yeah.
But I'd love to show it with you. It's a little cheesy, but so the first thing that when you're meeting somebody, what you do to remember their name, obviously is you say their name. So we'll go through it and then I'll explain. It's like, hey, I'm David.
Good to meet you. I'm David.
David?
Yeah.
Good to meet you, David.
I love it.
So
you said it 3 times.
I said my name first, right?
David.
Right, because we're both the same name. But then there's like that physical marker, right?
Yeah.
Along with the eye contact.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like just studying your face.
Sure.
And then you say your name as we're doing that physical marker, and then I say your name, and then you acknowledge, right?
Right.
I get that dopamine hit with that feedback.
Sure.
Right? That feedback loop
so
where I've just said your name, and then you say yes.
Yeah.
Right. And I say, okay. And then I say your name again. I say, it's nice to meet you, David. And then I get another like dopamine hit. Boom.
Right.
Like, yes.
So
dude,
smart.
that is so helpful. If
Absolutely.
I don't do that, my recall of names is definitely less.
Really? Wow.
I've noticed it's definitely less. Sometimes there's like 4 people standing around.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of like
that's a little harder because you're like
actually,
Susie, yeah, Susie, David.
It's exactly. And so sometimes you kind of feel like maybe you don't do it.
Yeah,
my recall is less.
Yeah,
and there's times that I do it. It's actually nobody ever is offended by it. Nobody ever.
Sure.
They appreciate the intentionality.
Absolutely.
Of it. And then if you walk away and then you recollect their name and you say it, that also helps too. But
I love that. Yeah. I think that there's another 2 things too that's so smart. That another thing too that I do as well. 2 things. One, if they have an odd name, like let's say a name that I've never heard before or I'm curious about or whatever, always ask what that means.
Oh, that's really good. I love that. Ask them what it means.
What does that mean? Yes. And so they'll tell you like, oh, it means whatever. It's like a Hebrew name or whatever. And you're like, oh, that's so interesting. Well, good to meet you, whatever. And then so you like repeat it. So that kind of stucks. And then another tip that I've heard many people use as well is associating the name with something funny about them. So like whatever, right? Like it could be like, I don't even know, like big ears, somebody, and you like make, you know, like you imagine this like Dumbo looking face and then with their name or whatever. So you imagine this like exaggerated cartoonish version of them. And then, you know, like I met somebody like years ago, had like a Batman t-shirt, a Batman hat, and then something else. So it was like all about Batman. And his name was Ben. And so it was like, oh, Batman Ben. And so years later, I remember Batman Ben, and you know what I mean? So it's like something, it doesn't have to be like physical about it, you know, but like something that makes you remember this is the guy, right? Like, and I remember.
I love it.
Yeah.
So. Another, you know, something else that's really important that I think people gloss over is, well, two things. One is ask them how they pronounce their name.
Ooh,
like, make sure you get that right.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't get it right, you probably don't care enough.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to remember their name.
Sure.
So part of remembering names is obviously caring about it.
Right.
So understand how they pronounce it. Get it right.
Yeah.
Pronounce their name right. This is one. Secondly, which helps me to pronounce their name right, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Is how do you spell it?
Okay, nice.
So for me, I'm a little bit more of like a visual memory. Like,
sure.
I remember people's names, literally, I see them on paper.
Nice.
How it's spelled. And that also helps you to pronounce it correctly, to be honest with you.
Right.
So sometimes if they say, I'm Christina.
Sure.
I'll be like, Christina with a K, with a C, right? And then like it's another one of those markers that, helps you to remember it. But also, besides the fact that it tells them that you care.
Yeah.
It also tells your brain that you care.
Yeah.
So you remember it better.
I love that. Yeah. I do that too. Like over Zoom is a little bit different too, right? Because you do, sometimes like you'll have like Timothy something. And then sometimes I'll ask like, hey, do you go by Timothy, Tim? What do you prefer? Right. So you kind of get like, in some of those details, whenever you make these connections, right? Like those are the details that matter. Because like there's only one chance for a good first impression. Right. Mm-hmm. And whenever you meet somebody, you don't really get that first, hey, this is me, whatever. Like that's their first impression with somebody. So being able to make it all about the other person, make them feel good, asking good questions, good like layering questions so that you can get to some interesting conversations, or make it lighthearted, right? Like, what's your superpower if you're gonna be a superhero? You make it fun as well, So,
I like the animal one, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna use that. That's
absolutely
good.
And then another thing too, like I started, one of my mentors does this all the time, and he's such a good trainer and connector, great guy. Whenever he leaves or somebody's leaving a room, you always hear all right, drive safe. So he'll say, all right, drive fast, take chances. So he'll always say that. It's the funniest thing, And so like you always like, just leave in a good, positive note, right? So I started to say that too, and it's just like you get the funniest reactions, like, oh, but
that's funny.
So yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about Spain.
Spain. What do you want to know about Spain?
So what brought the move? It's funny because I have a good friend who's moved to Portugal.
Okay.
It's next door.
Yeah, pretty close.
And, and my dad actually, so my grandfather was in the military.
Okay.
And obviously, Spanish was his first language.
Sure.
So he was a military attaché to the embassy in Spain.
Nice.
My uncles, they went to high school in Madrid.
That's pretty cool.
And so there's just lots of stories there and stuff like that. But I have not visited yet. I need to.
It's a fun, dude. It's a totally different culture. I mean, here's the biggest difference, I'd say. Like, the pace of life is different. So, like, for good and bad. So, like, and I've actually seen people that, like, Americans that are moving there because of that, right? Like, the pace of more relaxed when it comes to things like work and stuff like that, almost to a fault sometimes. Like you hear about siestas and things. Like it is true, the city shuts down for like 2 hours in the summertime especially, right? It's too hot. Businesses close around like 2 p.m. and then they open at 5. So it's like people go out, spend time with their families, sometimes take a little like nap in the middle of the day, right? And then go back to work and do that in the retail business. But it's a different change of pace too when it comes to, in the workspace, because a lot of times the culture there is a lot of, you find, and I think this is partly because of the civil war that Spain had to go through in the 50s and stuff. So people had a hard time like recovering. I mean, the world was recovering. Europe was recovering from like World War II and all these different things. Spain was going through the Civil War, and like that generation was worried about putting food on the table. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't that sense of entrepreneurship as there is in the U.S. today, right? I feel like a lot of people here, the culture is a lot of, I'm going to do my own business. And, you know, and even people are working at a 9 to 5, but they're always had like a side hustle or like whatever the things they're doing. The culture is a lot more entrepreneurial in spirit. And then Spain is more like, I feel like because of that past that they had, is more of a, I need to find something that I can stay and being able to lock that up forever so that I'm always putting food on the table. So I feel like that's one of the biggest difference that I saw when I came here. It was like super different for me, but I fell in love with the culture because it's so much more open to the possibility of like, what else is there? Like how can I maximize? I love, I don't know if you know Ed Milet. He's a great motivational speaker. He always talks about maxing out the best version of yourself, right? And so I've always thought about that to where like in Spain, the culture is more of like, how can I survive? Here is more sometimes, right? The opportunity is there for everybody. Not everybody is like that, but I feel like there's a little bit more of a, how can I max out the best version of who I can become? And whatever that means to you, right? It doesn't have to be like, I'm going to work 24 hours a day and be an entrepreneur and all these different things. Like, but what if that means to you, like being a creative and like becoming an artist and doing what you love and maxing out that version of yourself, right? And exploring that. So that's one of the biggest differences.
Super cool.
Yeah.
What was the precursor to the transit? What made you transition?
So long story short, I had some friends here. I moved here to Nashville, and I ended up meeting my wife and got connected, and sort of the rest is history, right? And so yeah, it's been a journey. It's been incredible and lots of learning. I mean, I feel like I speak okay English at the moment.
Oh my gosh!
But, you know,
amazing.
I had
as good as everybody else.
Well, I had a thicker accent back in the day, you know, 10 years ago, and it's funny. I've had some crazy stories. Like one of my buddies and I, we were playing soccer one time here in Nashville, and it was like 11:30 at night, and this was like 10 years ago. And we were playing soccer at night, and it was like we're probably not supposed to be there. Police car pulls up to the soccer field and like with the flashlight and everything. And it's like, he was trying to explain, because I wasn't like really speaking all that well. He was trying to explain like, hey, he just came from Spain, you know, playing some soccer, hanging out, whatever, having some fun. And he's like, he asked me, he's like, with pointing the flashlight at me, he's like, sir, are you from Spain? And I went, I do. So I remember that, like, just, you know, like, yes, all right. And so anyway, so he left and we went home and everything, but it's like, I was like so nervous. I'm like, oh, see.
That's awesome.
So yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Dude, soccer. I'm a huge soccer
fan.
Oh yeah. I used to play a ton.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You seen the Nashville soccer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been out very much.
Yeah.
Too busy. But took my daughter actually was super into soccer at one point. So I was coaching her, you know, little league, whatever. And then we went out to one of the first couple games actually.
That's so fun.
Yeah, first season. Yeah. I should have bought one of those like first season like
right,
you know things.
I love it. It's a good community, man, and yeah, I mean that's another good way to like meet good connections. You know, I feel like that's one of the things I tell people, like whenever they don't know about like networking and like making connections, like man, just find something you love, right? Like you love dancing, you love soccer, like what else you like? Like what's your passion?
I'm an artist.
You're an artist?
Yeah, I'm actually somebody's waiting on some final changes. I'm illustrating a book.
Okay, nice. That's cool.
Yeah, with the goal is to publish it in January. So it's a children's book. So I'm illustrating that. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, so you can find like there's always ways to find like people, and like you said, your tribe earlier, right? Yeah. Like you find your tribe, and you can make incredible connections. Regardless of, everybody loves something. Everybody has a hobby. Everybody has something that they love to do, and you can find people around it that also love to do that. And so guess what? You already have something in common. Make friends, you know, like it's so easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, dude, this has been a pleasure having you here. I'm so excited tell everybody what you got going on. I mean, where can they find you?
Yeah. So IceBrekr is spelled differently.
Okay.
Just remember it's IceBrekr. Okay. So there's no A, and there's the last E isn't there. So I would say the first two E's, no A-hole.
Okay.
IceBrekr. And if you give us some likes on the app stores, we'll get more SEO, and then it'll be easier to find it.
Nice.
So you type it in, the app store might be like, "Are you sure you're spelling it right?" And like, yes. IceBrekr. Nice. Please check it out. There's a free digital business card there, which is has some cool stuff that other ones don't. So please use it. Give us 5 stars and give us feedback.
I love it. And for anybody watching too, we want to know, what are some of the best tips that you have, right, for networking and making connections? What are some of your tips, or, you know, any questions? I want to know, what questions do you ask whenever you go to a networking event? So, but we love it. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, man.
And that was really fun, making meaningful connections, you know, with people. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode.